Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Evidence-based research has already proven its usefulness for clinical medicine and public health. However, despite of its rigorous methodology and efficiency, it is often facing biases and obstacles. Still, practicing evidence-based research is not taken for granted in everyday healthcare practice. The goal of the paper is to show how evidence-based research implementation can profit from sociological approach. At the beginning, some few words about sociology and its approach. Sociology has developed since the middle of the 19th century as evidence-based science and into the multi-paradigm science to study and understand social facts, unravel forces beyond experiences of everyday life, and define laws of social life. There exist different methodologies, different standpoint epistemologies, different traditions, and different research techniques as well. Besides the study of health-related phenomena like social determinants of health, for example, medicine and medical research itself became an object of sociological approach and study. It's worth to mention that most prominent sociologists generated general theory of society also studied medicine and its role in the society and the role of medical knowledge and medical knowledge production. Medicine can be studied sociologically from different standpoint epistemologies and can be focused as a social subsystem, social institution, field of practice, or as a structured field of power relations. Research constitutes an integral part of medicine. Medicine depends on the cycle of knowledge production, verification, dissemination, and implementation. Term medicine overlaps partly with the term health system. WHO developed in the past a useful framework that displays the health system as a social institution, focusing health maintenance and consisting of some typical elements. What is very important is the field of information and research, or in other words, knowledge or evidence. The importance of evidence production and knowledge production and its circulation in national health system and global health systems can be seen, for example, from the Joanna Briggs Institute model of evidence-based healthcare. The current COVID-19 pandemics revealed a lot about our societies, especially in Europe, especially need for reliable stock of knowledge. How to get it? Evidence-based research can offer knowledge which is based on the true facts and evidence, and it is important to get filtered information to address it to heterogeneous audience, to the decision makers, to advisors to decision makers, those who suggest certain measures and regulations, also to health professionals who can be involved in misinterpretation of data and evidence, and to health professionals who are frontline health workers. Filtered information is required also for the lay public or by the lay public. And last but not the least, there is also scientific journalism. The results of evidence-based research is important to share across the boundaries of medicine or health system. If we talk about evidence-based research in medicine, very useful can be concept of scientific revolution, developed by Thomas Kuhn in the 60s of the 20th century. It allows to understand dynamics of medicine as a system of knowledge and its relation to the scientific community. Besides evidence-based medicine, maybe several competing paradigms in contemporary medicine can be identified. The cycle of science has several phases. There is some prescience stage, which develops into normal science. As the normal science is established, it's a scientifically based model of understanding or a paradigm that works and is accepted by the scientific community. Later comes the stage of model drift. Next stage is a model crisis stage. Current paradigm cannot solve uniquely as a guide to problem solving. Next stage is model revolution. This begins when serious candidates for a new model emerge. It's a revolution because the new model is so radically different from the old one. The fifth stage is called paradigm change. The new paradigm is taught to newcomers and those already in the field. When the new paradigm becomes generally accepted, then the step is complete and the paradigm change is complete. We have the new normal science and the Kuhn cycle is complete. How this can be applied to evidence-based research? For example, in the new normal, investments in biomedical research can be approved only after gaps in current knowledge are detected by evidence-based research. However, in previous stages, if the cycle is not finished already, this effort can clash with the scientific journals. Editors and peer reviewers can have a different opinion. These gatekeepers can detect deviations from the normal methodology that prefers data gathering or clinical research, respectively. This concept is useful because it stresses attention to the community of scientists, and later there occurred development of the idea. For example, a concept of epistemic culture, of knowledge production practices, or the concept of scientific field by Pierre Bourdieu. If we apply this view and concept of paradigm, maybe we can ask if medicine is multi-paradigm science, if there are more candidates for the new normal. But let's focus on evidence-based research. It's important also to note that science is a regulated process. It is not just a neutral process of production of knowledge. It's institutionalized and regulated social activity. There are different instruments of social control over research. For example, medical law, medical ethics, some soft law like technical norms, and last but not the least, also habits and everyday practices, which are punished mostly by informal ways. And maybe these practices can be key component for understanding of some barriers that evidence-based research is facing. In this sense, concept of scientific field can be found fruitful. It was designed by Pierre Bourdieu in the 70 years of the 20th century. Bourdieu developed his unique theory of practice, attempting to explain human behavior with the concept of habitus. In his view, people are not just passive product of society or some social structures, but also the human behavior is not always a product of a subjective, rational choice. Individual is a subject who acts in objective social reality. In the paper Forms of Capital, Bourdieu expands the notion of capital beyond its economic conception, which emphasizes material exchanges, to include immaterial and non-economic forms of capital, specifically cultural and symbolic capital. All of them produce prestige. And what is crucial in this concept, the structure and distribution of these forms of capital also represent the inherent and invisible structure of the social world. Bourdieu devoted a lot of attention to science, and he developed the concept of science field. In his view, the scientific truth lies in a particular type of social conditions of production. In other words, in a determinate state of the structure and functioning of the scientific field. The science is a social field like any other, with its distribution of power and its monopolies, its struggles and strategies, interests and profits, but it is a field in which all these invariants take specific forms. In any field, individuals are holding some positions which are already won in previous struggles. So the scientific field can be seen as a system of objective relations between positions of individuals, rather than position or relations between individuals themselves. The scientific field is the locus of a competitive struggle in which the specific issue at stake is the monopoly of scientific authority. That is a technical capacity and social power, the scientific competence. In this sense, a particular against socially recognized capacity to speak and act in an authoritative way in scientific matters is socially recognized. It means that the group which grants the recognition always tends to be progressively narrowed to the group of scientists who are competitors. Competence, authority, legitimacy to act as authority rests upon a subjective recognition, especially within the community of scientists which is active in a given social field. I would like now to highlight some implications about this concept for the evidence-based research. It's important to focus also strategies and practices within struggle, gaining symbolic capital. Credentials, certificates, certifying that there are some skills and capacities in researchers and position holders, that there is a qualification that confirms scientific authority are important. Publications are important. Ways of publications, sites of publication of the results of the research. Also, congresses, if they are organized under some auspices of some institution, of some important person holding important position, are also bringing social capital, symbolic capital that is bound to prestige. Novel strategies can be academic awards, prizes, honors, international recognition by means of research collaboration with prestigious partners, development of networks with other institutions in the country or abroad, also via social media. It is also important to know mainstream mass media presence of the researchers, like interviews, commentaries, or columns in daily newspapers. And also, important strategy is if expertise is required also by decision makers or politicians. There can be some findings summarized for evidence-based research implementation. There is a big challenge of fake systematic reviews which are imitating evidence-based research. Other challenge is quantophrenia, emphasizing of quantitative research and data gathering by funding agencies, as opposite to data utilization. I will further describe the need of thorough utilization of evidence-based research and how it's important obtaining status of the academic discipline. Other notion goes to the discursive component of scientific works. Community discourse, public discourse, political discourse are important. Communication process itself and focus on community of researchers, newcomers who are competing over positions, and also position of gatekeepers, journal editors, reviewers, organizers of congresses. Also, one important notion have to be made about the concept of Ragnvald Karlberg, a Norwegian sociologist who is approaching academic disciplines as bundles of 5 activities: research, teaching, dissemination, expert programs, and self-governance of scientific community are very important components of institutionalization and autonomy of any academic discipline. So it can be useful to view evidence-based medicine or evidence-based public health as institutionalized academic discipline. What to say in the end? Sociology has different traditions, quantitative and qualitative research tradition. For What is its strength is the problem analysis through the lens of sociological theory of concept. And sociology can offer understanding, generating of questions, hypotheses, which sociology can help also to analyze by its quantitative repository. Thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward for the discussion.